Okay, so in talking about yoga, we often want to start with talking about breathing. And we often say that breathing is the simplest form of yoga. If you can breathe, you're doing yoga. And all of the yoga, all of the deep stretching that we do, all benefits from knowing a little bit more about different breathing techniques. But also breathing just in and of itself is a really great stress relief. So I'm going to give you several different techniques to use, and you can use any or all of these anytime you want to. And really just starting with a simple inhale and exhale. So just an in through the nose, out through the nose. This can be done seated, it can be done standing, it can be done lying on the floor with your feet on the floor. It can be done lying on your back with your legs straight. Really, it's whatever position feels best for you. And really, if you're doing it standing or laying down, you can get the fuller effect of that breath because it's able to move through your body with a little bit less restriction than when we're sitting. So just starting with that inhale and exhale. In through the nose and out through the nose. You can close your eyes if you like. Just letting that inhale and exhale find its way without forcing it. And just letting that inhale and exhale start to grow. We might bring our hands to our chest and just feel that breath expand and open. Inhale and expand the lungs. And then exhale and deflate the lungs. And you might feel your chest move with that breath. So keeping those inhales and exhales, we want to also start to think about moving the breath out of the top of the lungs. When we keep the breath just in that very small part of our lungs, then we're really just adding to that anxiety, right? When we get anxious, we find that our breath shortens and it tightens, and usually it's just here. So in yoga, we work on what we call a 3-part breath, which is the same thing we're doing. Inhale in through the nose, out through the nose. But then see if you can move that breath lower in the body. So your hands can move with you. I'm off camera when I move my hands to my rib cage, but inhaling in, letting that breath flow down into the chest, into the lungs, maybe pulling it a little bit deeper down into the rib cage, and maybe a little bit deeper even into the belly, into what we call a belly breath. So this takes some practice, and so you can practice along with me a few times. Or you can also do this on your own. Again, inhaling in. And again, as we do that, just letting that start to flow in and out, nice and easy, nice and natural. So as we do that breath, again, in through the nose, out through the nose is what we typically do in yoga, but you can also let that exhale out through the mouth. The inhale in through the nose, out through the nose helps to retain your body heat. The exhale through the mouth can help to release that body heat and can also help to release some of that stress and anxiety as well. So trying it with the exhale out through the mouth. So several ways we can do that. Exhale out through the mouth. You might recognize this as that kind of inhale, exhale that you do when you're stressed out and you're relieving stress. You inhale, and then you exhale and you let that relax. So a couple other ways we can do this is that inhale in. And then as you exhale, pursing the lips like you're blowing out through a straw. So trying that again. So again, continuing that inhale and exhale. Another thing that we can do with that inhale and exhale is to bring it into what we call ocean breath or ujjayi breath. Sometimes I call it Darth Vader breath just for fun. But again, that's an inhale and an exhale, and you're kind of constricting the throat a little bit, making that passage that the air flows through smaller. So it again takes a little bit of practice, and when you do that, you're going to be able to hear your breath a little bit more. So that ocean breath, that ujjayi breath, helps us to have a little bit more awareness of our breath, and you might also find it just comforting to hear that breath a little bit more. And it's also kind of like when a cat purrs, that same kind of thing. So when a cat purrs, the air is constricted as that comes in and out. So that's what we hear as the purr. And the purr acts in both ways. One is the purr can be used by a cat to help relax, but then also a relaxed cat purrs. So it's the same with us for our breath. We inhale and exhale, and that inhale and exhale helps us to relax. So another fun through the mouth exhale is called horse lips. And it's really funny and it's going to make you laugh, but you have to try not to laugh when you do it because that makes it impossible to do the horse lips. So horse lips is used as kind of a neural reset, particularly when working with stressed out children or autistic children. So it's also a really great breath for adults. So always the same, starting with that inhale. So again, as we do that, it's like that big exhale we did earlier, but that exhale and that you have to really let the lips relax in order to do that horse lips. Let's try it again. So anytime you find yourself getting a little bit stressed out, just that inhale and again that exhale with the horse lips. So another nice breath for managing stress is called crying breath. And so this breath is a lot like when we cry. And when we cry, we often start to lose control of our breath. We start to have trouble inhaling and getting that full breath. And so crying breath basically gives us a way to help us to find that breath if we're crying, but it's also just a nice breath to practice. So again, it's a lot like crying. So you're going to inhale, but again, when you're inhaling, it's like that. So again, it's like when you're crying, when you can't catch your breath. And again, just practicing that a few times. And again, that can be a breath that you think about when you're crying to help you control that breath. Or again, that you practice when you're not crying to just help you get that fuller, deeper breath. Okay, so a couple more techniques, and then again, maybe that's enough. We might also think about breath retention, and breath retention is something that you want to just be careful with. And typically we want to do that retention on either the inhale or the exhale. So I'm going to show you it on both ends just for practice. And if you get practiced with this breath, you can do that retention on both ends. But again, typically you're going to choose to do it with the inhale or with the exhale, depending upon what feels best to you. So breath retention basically means that when we do that inhale, we have a pause. So another way to think about it is when we inhale and exhale, maybe there is no pause, and it's just that continual cycle of breath. So try that a few times. It's just that continual cycle of breath, the inhale and the exhale with no pause. And then trying that with the retention at the top. So this is in a lot of ways just like when we inhale and we hold our breath. So that's usually the retention that we're more comfortable with because we do hold our breath, like when we go swimming or something like that. The retention on the exhale is a little bit harder because that is that retention on the exhale where your body might start to panic and say, are you going to take another breath or not? Because again, breathing is something that our body will do automatically for us, but it's also something that we can have control over, and that helps us to regulate our breath and to grow our breath and to manage our stress and our parasympathetic nervous system, for instance. So the retention on the end of the breath, we inhale. So again, there's that pause at the end of the exhale before you take another inhale. So again, we might practice either one of those breath retention strategies. We also might practice a counting breath. And so that counting breath can help us to regulate the breath. It can help us to keep the breath going a little bit longer than we might normally go. And also there's a kind of breath breathing called coherent breathing, and that's what we're going to practice now. So more or less coherent breathing is a 5-count inhale with a 5-count exhale. So I'm going to count in my head as I do it a few times, and you can do it with me. And then I'll count it a few times so that you can do it as I count to get a sense of that breath. So when we start with the inhale. So you keep breathing and I'll count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for me, I'm not much of a numbers person, and when I start to do this breath and try to count the breath for myself, I tend to start rushing those numbers, like I want to get that count done more quickly. So one little technique that I developed for myself is actually to add some words to it instead of the count. So when I do that inhale, I say these 5 words, and when I do the exhale, I say these 5 words, and I try to say them slowly, again, in my head. And it also helps to give me something to kind of visualize instead of the numbers, which makes me kind of get distracted in my mind. So part of this breathing is also a meditation, and so that's part of what we can do with this breath. So again, it's that same general 5 count in, 5 count out with a continuous cycle. But what I say is, so inhale, earth, air, fire, water, space. Exhale, earth, air, fire, water, space. Inhale, earth, air, fire, water, space. Exhale, earth, air, fire, water, space. So you might come up with something that you say that fits more with kind of what is in tune for you, or those words, or maybe the count works well for you. And as we do this breath, we can also practice that fuller, deeper breath, that breath that comes down into the lower body. And we might think about the inhale, the breath rising up toward the top of the head, and then the exhale, the breath moving down to the base of the spine. Again, the inhale, the breath moving up to the top of the head, and the exhale, the breath moving down to the bottom of the spine. So also called breath moving. So it's breathing and imagination linked together. So finally, one more breath that you might try, which includes both a count and retention. So what it's going to be is an inhale for 4, a hold for 2, an exhale for 6, and a hold for 2. And so one thing I didn't say earlier, or maybe I did and forgot, is with that inhale and exhale, as we inhale and exhale, if we can make that exhale last longer than our inhale, that's another technique for relaxation. So I'm going to do this inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6, hold 2, and I'll do that a couple times and you can breathe with me, and then again I'll count it for you. So again, we inhale, so again, I'll count it for you this time. So it's inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold 2. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold 2. So again, you can do any of these breathing techniques anytime you like. You can follow along with the video and try out the different techniques that I've given you, or take the ones that you like and do them whenever you like. And again, you can really start to notice that stress relief that comes from just breathing, just consciously breathing, and starting to deepen that inhale and lengthen that exhale. So again, keep on breathing.